The morning sun rose over New Sol just like it had every day for the past 5 years. The colony buzzed with activity as miners prepared for their shifts and children walked to school. Governor Taemin Park stood on his office balcony, watching the busy streets below. He smiled as he saw families starting their day. This place had become a real home for 50,000 humans. Colonel So-Young Kim checked her daily reports at the military base. Crime was low, morale was high, and the weather looked good for the next week. She had never seen such a peaceful posting. Most days her biggest worry was making sure the defense system stayed in working order. Not that they expected any trouble. No alien species had made contact with humans yet. Dr. Hee-Jin Choi worked in her lab, studying soil samples from the northern continent. The planet was rich in minerals that Earth needed badly. Every ship that left New Sol carried tons of precious metals back home. More importantly, they had found no signs of intelligent life. The planet seemed to be theirs for the taking. Ambassador Jin-Ho Lee spent most of his time writing reports that nobody on Earth bothered to read. His job was to make first contact with alien species, but after 5 years, he was starting to think humans were alone in this part of space. He had been trained to negotiate with aliens, but there were no aliens to negotiate with. That changed at exactly 10:47 in the morning. The defense satellites picked up the ships first. 12 massive vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel just outside the planetary system. Each ship was 3 times bigger than the largest human vessel ever built. They moved in perfect formation toward New Sol. Colonel Kim rushed to the command center. "Are those human ships?" she asked her communications officer. "No, ma'am," came the reply. "The design is completely unknown. We're trying to contact them now." Jin-Ho Lee arrived at the command center minutes later. His heart pounded with excitement and fear. This was what he had trained for his entire career. First contact with an alien species. He hoped they would be friendly. The alien ships moved closer. They ignored all attempts at communication. Finally, when they reached the edge of the planet's atmosphere, one ship sent a message. The translation came through the computer systems in a cold, mechanical voice. "Primitive creatures of the third planet. I am Admiral Thex Mora of the Vorthak Empire. You are trespassing on Vorthak territory. This world belongs to us by right of conquest. You will surrender immediately or face extermination. You have 1 hour to decide." Governor Park, Colonel Kim, and Ambassador Lee stared at each other in shock. These aliens were not interested in peaceful contact. They wanted humans gone. "Try to negotiate with them," Park ordered Lee. "Tell them we had no idea this was their territory. Maybe we can work something out." Lee activated the communication system. His voice shook slightly as he spoke. "Admiral Thex Mora, this is Ambassador Jin-Ho Lee representing the human colony of New Sol. We came in peace and had no knowledge of your claim to this world. Perhaps we can discuss a peaceful solution that works for both our species." The reply came back immediately. "There is no discussion, human. Surrender or die. You have 57 minutes. Colonel Kim pulled the governor aside. "Sir, I recommend we start evacuating civilians immediately. Those ships have enough firepower to level our cities." "Where would we evacuate them to?" Park asked. "We have a few small transport ships, but nothing that could carry 50,000 people, and the nearest human world is 6 months away." Dr. Choi had been listening from her position at a computer terminal. "Governor, I can send a message to Earth right now. If we use the emergency broadcast system, it will reach home in about 4 hours. "Do it," Park ordered. "Send everything. Our location, the alien ships, their demands. Tell Earth what's happening here." Choi's fingers flew across the keyboard. She uploaded all their data about the alien ships, their weapons readings, and the communication records. Her message was simple. "Alien fleet attacking New Sol. 50,000 civilians in danger. They demand surrender or threaten extermination. Send help immediately." The hour passed quickly. Governor Park tried 3 more times to negotiate with the Vorthak. Each time, Admiral Thex Mora repeated the same demand: surrender or die. When the deadline arrived, Park made his choice. "Admiral Thex Mora, the people of New Sol will not surrender to threats. This is our home. We will defend it. The alien." Admiral's laugh came through the speakers like broken glass. "Foolish humans, you have chosen death." The bombardment began 30 seconds later. Beams of energy lanced down from the Vorthak ships, striking the outer settlements first. Entire neighborhoods vanished in seconds. The mining facilities exploded in massive fireballs. The spaceport disappeared under a cloud of smoke and debris. Colonel Kim activated the colony's defense systems, but they were designed to handle pirates, not a full military assault. The few defense platforms that managed to fire at the alien ships might as well have been throwing rocks. All military personnel to defensive positions, Kim broadcast over the emergency network. Civilians to the underground shelters immediately. The Vorthak ships moved closer, their weapons systematically destroying everything humans had built. Schools, hospitals, homes. Nothing was spared. Governor Park watched from his office window as 5 years of human work burned around him. "They're targeting civilian areas," he said in disbelief. "They're not trying to defeat our military, they're trying to kill everyone." Dr. Choi managed to keep the communication array working long enough to send one final message to Earth. "They're slaughtering civilians. Children, families, everyone. These aliens don't want prisoners or slaves. They want us dead. Send everything you have." The communication array exploded under alien fire 10 seconds after she sent the message. The orbital bombardment continued. Small alien ships began landing throughout the colony. Vorthak soldiers poured out of the landing craft. They were tall, gray-skinned creatures with 4 arms and no visible emotion in their black eyes. They carried weapons that fired bolts of superheated plasma. Colonel Kim led her soldiers in a desperate defense of the government district. They had taken defensive positions in the buildings around the governor's office. The Vorthak soldiers advanced methodically, showing no fear of human weapons. "They're not even taking cover," one of Kim's sergeants reported over the radio. "It's like they don't care if we shoot them." "Keep firing," Kim ordered. "Make every shot count." But the human weapons were barely scratching the alien soldiers' armor. The Vorthak advanced building by building, floor by floor. When they found human civilians hiding in basements or closets, they killed them without hesitation. Men, women, children. It didn't matter to the aliens. Governor Park grabbed a rifle and joined the defense. He had never been a soldier, but he couldn't sit in his office while his people died. Ambassador Lee did the same. His training had prepared him for negotiation, not war. But negotiation was no longer possible. As night fell over New Seoul, the colony was in ruins. Thousands of humans lay dead in the streets. The few survivors had managed to reach the deep underground bunkers beneath the government complex. Colonel Kim estimated that maybe 3,000 people were still alive. "We need to hold out until help arrives from Earth," she told Governor Park as they huddled in the command bunker. Park looked around at the scared faces of the survivors. Children cried softly while their parents tried to comfort them. These people had come to New Seoul looking for a better life. Instead, they had found death falling from the sky. "How long before Earth gets our message?" Park asked Dr. Choi. 3 more hours, she replied. "Then maybe 6 months before any ships could reach us." Colonel Kim checked her ammunition count. Her soldiers had maybe enough bullets for one more fight. The Vorthak were probably preparing to assault the bunker complex. When that happened, the last humans on New Seoul would make their final stand. Outside, Admiral Thexmora's voice echoed through the burning city on loudspeakers. "Humans of New Seoul, your resistance is over. Come out now and your death will be quick. Continue hiding and we will make you suffer." Governor Park looked at Colonel Kim. Both of them knew they would never surrender. Not after seeing what the Vorthak did to defenseless people. If these were humanity's final hours on New Seoul, they would face them with dignity. The battle for New Seoul was ending, but thousands of light years away, Earth was about to receive a message that would change everything. Admiral Woo Jin Han was drinking his morning coffee when the emergency alert sounded throughout Earth Defense Command. He had been reviewing routine patrol reports, expecting another boring day of paperwork. The red lights flashing on his desk meant something serious was happening. He rushed to the main command center where dozens of officers were staring at computer screens in shock. Captain Young Ho Seo, the communications chief, looked up as the admiral arrived. "Sir, we just received an emergency transmission from New Seoul. You need to see this immediately." The main screen displayed Dr. Choi's final message, along with sensor data from the alien ships and footage of the bombardment. Admiral Han watched in silence as energy beams destroyed human buildings and alien soldiers shot civilians in the streets. "How old is this transmission?" Han asked. 4 hours, sir. The attack is probably over by now." President Mi Young-song arrived at the command center 20 minutes later. She had been pulled out of a meeting with the Agricultural Committee to deal with what her aide called the most important crisis in human history. When she saw the footage from New Seoul, she understood why. 50,000 people, she said quietly. "Are we certain this is real?" The transmission codes match new. Sol's colony records, Captain Seo replied. The footage shows clear evidence of orbital bombardment and ground invasion. This is not a hoax or simulation. President Song watched as Vorthak soldiers systematically executed human families. One video showed aliens shooting children who were trying to run to safety. Another showed them destroying a hospital while patients were still inside. Call an emergency session of the United Earth Council, she ordered. Every member needs to see this, and get me Admiral Han's best estimates on what we can do about it. Admiral Han had already been working on that question. Madam President, our fastest ships would need 6 months to reach New Seoul. By the time we arrive, there won't be any survivors to rescue, but we can prepare a response force. What kind of response force? Everything we have, every ship, every soldier, every weapon. These aliens just declared war on humanity. Captain Dong Hyun-yu received his orders while his destroyer was patrolling the Jupiter system. His ship, the Seoul's Vengeance, was one of Earth's newest and fastest vessels. Along with 12 other ships, he was ordered to travel to New Seoul immediately and assess the situation. Best possible speed to New Seoul, he told his navigation officer, and prepare for combat when we arrive. The journey took 6 months. During the trip, Captain Yu's crew studied every piece of data about the Vorthak ships. They analyzed weapon signatures, armor types, and battle tactics. By the time they reached New Seoul, they knew exactly what they were dealing with. What they found was worse than anyone had expected. New Seoul was a dead world. The cities had been reduced to blackened craters. The spaceports were gone. Even the forests had been burned away. Captain Yu's sensors detected no life signs on the surface. Sir, his communications officer reported, I'm picking up a weak signal from the underground bunker complex. 3,000 humans were still alive, hiding in the deep bunkers beneath the old government center. They had survived by eating emergency rations and drinking recycled water. For 6 months they had lived in darkness, not knowing if help would ever come. Governor Taemin Park was among the survivors. He had lost weight, and his hair had turned gray, but he was still alive. Colonel Kim had died 3 months earlier, when she led a desperate raid to get medical supplies for the wounded. Her sacrifice had saved dozens of lives. We held out as long as we could. Park told Captain Yu as human soldiers helped the survivors reach the rescue ships, but we were running out of everything. Food, water, hope. Captain Yu found one survivor who would change everything. Hanyul Park was Governor Park's 20-year-old daughter. She had been an engineering student before the attack. Now she was the only person who had actually fought hand-to-hand with Vorthak soldiers. They laughed, she told Captain Yu, her voice filled with cold anger. When they killed my mother, they laughed. When they shot the children at my school, they laughed. They think we're funny because we're weak. What happened to your mother? Yu asked gently. She was helping evacuate the hospital when the aliens landed. I saw the whole thing through the security cameras. The Vorthak soldier shot her in the back while she was carrying a baby to safety. Then he picked up the baby and threw it against the wall. Captain Yu had seen the footage from New Seoul dozens of times during the trip, but hearing it from a survivor made it real in a way that video never could. These aliens hadn't just attacked a human colony. They had murdered children, for entertainment. Before leaving New Seoul, Captain Yu's crew found something else that made their blood run cold. The Vorthak had left behind a message beacon, broadcasting on all frequencies in perfect human language. This is Admiral Thex Mora of the Vorthak Empire. The humans of this world resisted our lawful claim to their territory. They have been exterminated, as an example to other primitive species. Any humans who attempt to resettle this world will face the same fate. This sector now belongs to the Vorthak Empire. The message repeated every hour, 24 hours a day. On the trip back to Earth, Captain Yu sent detailed reports about what his crew had found. The news spread through human space like wildfire. Every colony, every space station, every ship in the human fleet received the same information. Aliens had murdered 50,000 innocent people and were threatening to do it again. Dr. Shung Ho Kang was working in his laboratory on Mars when he saw the footage from New Seoul. He was a weapons designer who had spent most of his career developing better mining tools and construction equipment. Humans had never needed serious military weapons because they had never faced a serious military threat. That was about to change. Computer, access all files related to theoretical weapons development, he ordered. Also bring up historical data on warfare tactics from Earth's military archives. General Yu Jinbei was attending a conference on asteroid mining when the news reached her. She was Earth's highest-ranking military officer, but her job had always been more about logistics than actual warfare. The human military existed mainly to stop pirates and settle disputes between colonies. She immediately returned to Earth and began mobilizing humanity's entire military-industrial complex. Every factory that had been making civilian goods was converted to military production. Every shipyard began building warships instead of cargo vessels. Every military academy started training soldiers for actual combat instead of peacekeeping duties. "We're not just preparing for war," she told her staff officers. "We're preparing for the complete destruction of an alien species that thinks humans are weak." President Song addressed the United Earth Council 6 months after the New Sol attack. Representatives from every human world and colony watched as she played the footage of Vorthak soldiers executing human children. "Members of the council," she said, "we face a choice. We can try to hide from these aliens and hope they leave us alone, or we can show them that humanity does not forgive the murder of innocents." The vote was unanimous. Every human world pledged their full resources to the war effort. But the most important moment came when Hanul Park addressed the council. She had spent 6 months recovering from her injuries and learning everything she could about Vorthak technology. Now she stood before the representatives of humanity with a simple message. "The Vorthak think we are weak because we prefer peace," she said. "They think we are helpless because we try to negotiate before we fight. They are wrong. My mother died trying to save a baby. My friends died defending their families. But I live to tell you this. We are not weak. We are not helpless. And we will make them pay for every human life they took." The council gave her a standing ovation that lasted 10 minutes. Admiral Han began preparing humanity's response fleet. Every ship in the human navy was being equipped with new weapons designed by Dr. Kang. Every soldier was being trained in combat tactics developed by General Bay. And every human in the galaxy was united by the same goal: make the Vorthak regret. The day they attacked New Sol, Captain Yu received his new orders 3 weeks later. He would command an entire battle group of 20 ships all heading toward Vorthak space. Their mission was simple: find alien targets and destroy them completely. "Sir," his weapons officer asked, "what are our rules of engagement?" Captain Yu remembered Hanul Park's words about her mother. He remembered the footage of Vorthak soldiers laughing while they killed children. His answer was simple: no survivors. Commander Jaewon. O had been expecting the Vorthak attack for 3 months. Intelligence reports showed alien ships moving toward Titan Base, humanity's largest mining station in the Outer Rim. Unlike the peaceful colony of New Sol, Titan Base was ready for war. O had transformed the mining station into a fortress. Every corridor was rigged with explosives. Every room had been turned into a fighting position. The 3,000 workers on the station had been training for combat instead of mining ore. "They're coming," his sensor officer reported. 15 Vorthak ships, same class as the ones that destroyed New Sol. O looked around the command center at his people. They were miners, engineers, and technicians who had volunteered to stay and fight instead of evacuating to safety. They knew they would probably die, but they also knew that someone had to show the aliens that humans could fight back. "Send a message to the Vorthak fleet," O ordered. The communication officer opened a channel. "Go ahead, Commander." "Vorthak ships, this is Commander Jaewon O of Titan Base. We know what you did to New Sol. We know you murder children and laugh about it. Come and try to do the same here. We're waiting for you." The Vorthak Admiral's response was exactly what O expected. "Humans of Titan Base, surrender immediately or face extermination." "Go to hell," O replied, then cut the channel. The Vorthak bombardment began an hour later. But this time, they faced prepared defenses. Hidden weapons platforms opened fire as soon as the alien ships came within range. Missiles launched from concealed positions throughout the asteroid field around the station. Commander Grixtal led the Vorthak assault force. He had expected an easy victory just like at New Sol. Instead, his ships were taking heavy damage from weapons that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "These humans fight differently," he reported to Admiral Thexmora. "They show no fear of death. They are using tactics I have never seen before." The first human tactic that shocked the Vorthak was the suicide run. When the mining ship Pickaxe took critical damage, instead of trying to escape, the crew aimed their ship directly at the largest Vorthak vessel and hit maximum speed. "This is the Pickaxe," Captain Yojin called over the radio. "Tell my family I died fighting for humanity." The explosion when Pickaxe hit the Vorthak ship destroyed both vessels completely. Commander O watched the sacrifice from Titan Base's command center. All stations, you saw what Pickaxe just did. That's how humans fight. That's how we win. The Vorthak tried to land soldiers on the station, but they found that humans had prepared surprises for them. Every airlock was booby-trapped. Every corridor was a killing ground. The human defenders didn't try to hold territory. They just tried to kill as many aliens as possible before dying. Engineer Min Jung-han had turned the station's mining equipment into weapons. Giant drilling machines had been modified to fire high-speed projectiles. Construction robots had been reprogrammed to carry explosives and ram into enemy soldiers. "Sir," she reported to Commander. "Oh. The aliens are trying to cut through Airlock 7 with some kind of plasma torch." "Let them in," Oh replied. "Sergeant Kim is waiting for them with a very special welcome." When the Vorthak soldiers finally broke through the airlock, they found themselves in a room filled with mining explosives. Sergeant Dae-ho Kim waited until 12 aliens were inside, then triggered the charges manually. The explosion killed him, and all the Vorthak soldiers instantly. This pattern repeated throughout the station. Human defenders would lure Vorthak soldiers into traps, then detonate explosives that killed everyone in the room. To the aliens, it looked like humans had no survival instinct at all. Commander Grixtal had never encountered an enemy like this. In every previous conquest, when the Vorthak showed overwhelming force, the defenders would surrender to save their own lives. These humans seemed to prefer death to surrender. "They fight like animals," he reported to his superiors. "They show no concern for their own survival. They only want to kill as many of us as possible." The battle for Titan Base lasted 18 hours. In the end, the Vorthak managed to destroy the station, but they lost 8 ships and over 2,000 soldiers doing it. They had expected an easy victory, and instead found themselves in the bloodiest battle in their military history. Commander O made his final transmission as the station's main reactor went critical. "This is Titan Base to all human forces. We held them for 18 hours. We killed over 2,000 of them. We showed these aliens that humans don't surrender. Remember us." The explosion of Titan Base's reactor destroyed the remaining Vorthak ships in the area. Meanwhile, back in human space, Dr. Sung-Ho Kang was completing work on humanity's new weapon systems. The first Reaper-class battleships were rolling out of the shipyards on Mars. These vessels had been designed with one purpose: the complete destruction of enemy forces. Admiral Wu Jin-han inspected the first completed Reaper ship, the Endless Fury. It was twice the size of any previous human warship, and carried enough firepower to level a small moon. "How many of these ships will be ready for combat?" Han asked Dr. Kang. 50 ships within 6 months, Kang replied. "Each one carries enough weapons to match an entire Vorthak fleet." "But Admiral, these ships aren't designed for territorial conquest. They're designed for extermination." Han nodded. "That's exactly what we want." The first test of human resolve came when Captain Min-ho Lim encountered a Vorthak supply convoy near the Kepler system. His cruiser, New Soul's Ghost, was outgunned 10-1 by the alien ships. Standard military doctrine would have called for him to retreat and call for reinforcements. Instead, Captain Lim opened a communication channel to the Vorthak fleet. "Vorthak ships, this is the human warship New Soul's Ghost. You are the species that murdered 50,000 innocent people, including children and hospital patients. You laughed while you killed them, now you die." The Vorthak convoy commander tried to negotiate. "Human ship, you are heavily outnumbered. Surrender and we will give you a quick death." "We don't surrender," Lim replied. "We don't retreat. We just kill aliens." The battle was hopeless from a tactical standpoint. New Soul's Ghost was a single ship facing 10 larger vessels. But Captain Lim had something the aliens didn't understand: a crew that was fighting for revenge, not conquest. Engineer Park Soo-min managed to overload the ship's reactor to create a massive energy discharge. "Captain, I can channel all our power into one shot, but it will destroy our ship in the process." "Do it," Lim ordered without hesitation. The beam that lanced out from New Soul's Ghost was powerful enough to cut through 3 Vorthak ships before the human vessel exploded. The remaining alien ships were damaged so badly that they had to abandon their mission. But the most shocking moment came when Captain Lim's crew transmitted their final message to the surviving Vorthak ships. "Tell your people what you saw here today. Tell them that humans don't fear death. Tell them that we will hunt every one of you across the galaxy until your species is extinct. Tell them that you made the worst mistake in galactic history when you decided to make war on humanity." The Kroar message was recorded by the Vorthak ships and transmitted back to their homeworld. For the first time in their history, the Vorthak Empire began to feel something they had never experienced before: fear. General Eugene Bay received reports from battlefronts across human space. In every engagement, human forces were showing the same pattern. They fought with complete disregard for their own safety. They used suicide tactics. They refused to surrender even when facing impossible odds. "The aliens don't understand us," she told Admiral Han during a strategy meeting. "They're used to fighting species that value survival above victory. They've never fought anyone who would rather die than lose." "Is that what we're doing?" Han asked. "Choosing death over defeat?" "No," General Bay replied. "We're choosing victory over survival. There's a difference." The difference became clear when the first Reaper battleships entered combat. Admiral Han personally commanded the Endless Fury when it encountered a Vorthak invasion force near the colony world of New Busan. The Vorthak fleet consisted of 30 ships, including several vessels larger than anything humans had built before. They expected to destroy the human colony just like they had destroyed New Seoul. Instead, they faced Admiral Han's Reaper squadron. "Vorthak fleet," Han broadcast. "This is Admiral Wu Jin Han of the Human Defense Force. You are in human space. You have murdered human civilians. Prepare to be destroyed." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, every single Vorthak ship had been destroyed or disabled. The human Reaper squadron had taken minimal damage, but Admiral Han wasn't finished. When his crews found Vorthak survivors floating in life pods, he gave an order that shocked even his own officers. No prisoners. The human ships systematically destroyed every Vorthak life pod. No alien survivors were allowed to escape. Hanol, Park, now serving as Admiral Han's chief engineer, watched the execution of the alien survivors without emotion. "My mother would have tried to save them," she said quietly. "But my mother is dead because these creatures have no mercy. So we will show them none." The news of the battle near New Busan spread throughout both human and Vorthak space. Humanity had not just defeated a superior alien force, they had exterminated it completely. The message was clear. Humans were no longer the helpless species that had been massacred at New Seoul. They had become Ambassador Kethri of the Zeridian Collective, had lived for 300 years, and had mediated conflicts between dozens of species. She had never seen anything like the war between humans and the Vorthak Empire. The Zeridians were an advanced, peaceful race that believed all conflicts could be resolved through negotiation and understanding. When reports reached them about the escalating violence in the Outer Rim, Kethri volunteered to mediate between the two species. She arranged to meet with representatives from both sides at a neutral space station. Admiral Thexmora arrived with a full escort of Vorthak warships. Admiral Wu Jin Han came alone in a single human cruiser. "I thank you both for agreeing to this meeting," Kethri began. "War benefits no one. Surely we can find a peaceful solution to this conflict." Admiral Thexmora spoke first. "There is no conflict, Ambassador. The humans are a primitive species that refuse to acknowledge Vorthak sovereignty over our territory. We are simply completing their extermination." Kethri had expected this kind of arrogance from the Vorthak, but Admiral Han's response chilled her blood. "Ambassador Kethri, we appreciate your concern, but you misunderstand the situation. This is not a territorial dispute. The Vorthak murdered 50,000 human civilians, including children and hospital patients. They laughed while they did it. There will be no negotiation, there will be no compromise. We will hunt them across the galaxy until every single one of them is dead." "Surely you don't mean genocide," Kethri said in shock. "That's exactly what I mean," Han replied calmly. "They wanted a war of extermination, they shall have it." Admiral Thexmora laughed. "The humans will be extinct within the year. They are weak creatures who cannot match Vorthak military power." Admiral Han stood up to leave. "You'll find out how weak we are soon enough." The peace talks ended after 20 minutes. Kethri filed a report with the Galactic Council warning that both species seemed committed to total war. She had mediated hundreds of conflicts, but this was the first time she had met negotiators who genuinely wanted to exterminate their enemies completely. Meanwhile, Captain Sujin Nam was preparing for a new kind of warfare. Her stealth ship, the Silent Death, was one of 12 vessels designed for deep penetration raids into enemy territory. These ships could travel undetected through Vorthak space and strike targets far from any human support. "Our mission is simple," she briefed her crew. "We're going to start killing Vorthak civilians." Pilot Tae-ho Yoon raised his hand. "Captain, isn't that against the rules of war?" "The rules of war went out the window when they murdered our children," Nam replied. "They want to play the extermination game. We'll show them how it's really played." Tactical Officer Yoon Ji-ko had studied every piece of intelligence about Vorthak civilian targets. Their homeworld has 12 major cities, each with over 10 million aliens. Their colonies are mostly industrial centers with smaller populations. We start with the colonies, Captain Nam decided. Hit their factories, their mines, their supply centers. But leave no survivors to warn the homeworld. The Silent Death's first target was a Vorthak mining colony with 50,000 alien civilians. The planet had no military defenses because it had never been attacked. The Vorthak Empire had conquered so many worlds that they never expected anyone to strike back at their home territory. Captain Nam's ship arrived at the colony during the night cycle when most of the aliens were sleeping. The attack was swift and merciless. Orbital bombardment destroyed the major population centers in minutes. Landing parties hunted down survivors hiding in the mining tunnels. But the most shocking part was what happened next. Captain Nam ordered her crew to record footage of the destruction and broadcast it back to Vorthak space. This is Captain Sujin Nam of the Human Defense Force. The aliens on this world are dead. Your children, your families, your friends, all dead. This is what you get for murdering human civilians. We will visit every Vorthak world until your species is extinct. The broadcast showed human soldiers systematically executing Vorthak civilians, just like the aliens had done at New Sol, except now the roles were reversed. Pilot Yoon felt sick watching the executions. Captain, this doesn't feel right. We're becoming like them. No, Captain Nam replied coldly. They started this by killing innocents for fun. We're finishing it by killing them for justice. There's a difference. The Silent Death and her sister ships struck 12 Vorthak colonies over the next 6 months. Each attack followed the same pattern. Complete destruction of all life followed by a broadcast showing the results. The message was always the same. This is what happens when you make war on humanity. The psychological effect on the Vorthak Empire was devastating. For the first time in their history, they faced an enemy that would strike at their civilian population. Vorthak families began demanding protection from their government. Vorthak soldiers started showing signs of fear during combat. Commander Grixtal, who had survived the battle at Titan Base, found himself facing human forces that seemed to have no fear at all. During a battle near the Vega system, he watched human fighters ram their ships into Vorthak vessels rather than retreat when their weapons ran out of ammunition. These creatures are insane, he reported to his superiors. They would rather die than lose a battle. How do we fight an enemy that doesn't fear death? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Bo Young Shin, working in a secret laboratory on Luna Base, had been developing biological weapons specifically designed to target Vorthak physiology. The aliens have a weakness, she reported to President Song. Their immune systems are designed for their homeworld environment. They can't adapt to biological agents that target their specific genetic markers. You're talking about a plague weapon, the president said. I'm talking about extinction, Dr. Shin replied. We can create a virus that will kill every Vorthak in the galaxy within 6 months. It won't affect any other species, just them. President Song thought about the footage from New Sol, about Vorthak soldiers laughing while they murdered human children. She thought about the 50,000 innocent people who had died because they were in the wrong place when the aliens decided to expand their empire. Do it, she ordered. The plague weapon was deployed during what became known as the Battle of the Broken Sword. Admiral Han's Reaper fleet encountered the largest Vorthak armada ever assembled, over 200 alien warships commanded by Admiral Thexmora himself. The battle should have been hopeless for the humans. They were outnumbered 4-1 by ships that were individually more powerful than anything in the human fleet. But Admiral Han had a secret weapon that the aliens didn't know about. Launch the plague torpedoes, he ordered. The special weapons looked like ordinary missiles, but instead of explosives they carried Dr. Shin's biological agent. When they detonated near the Vorthak ships, the virus spread through their air recycling systems within minutes. The effect was immediate and horrifying. Vorthak crew members began dying at their posts. Entire ships went dead in space as their crews succumbed to the plague. Within 6 hours, half the alien fleet was floating helplessly. Admiral Thexmora managed to send one final transmission before his own ship was overwhelmed. What have you done to us? What kind of weapon is this? Admiral. Han's reply was broadcast to every surviving Vorthak ship. This is justice for New Sol. This is what happens when you murder our children. Your species chose this path when you decided that humans were too weak to fight back. The Battle of the Broken Sword ended with the complete destruction of the Vorthak Armada. Not a single alien ship escaped to warn their homeworld about the plague weapon, but the virus was already spreading through Vorthak space. Every alien who had come into contact with the infected ships carried the plague back to their colonies. Within weeks, entire Vorthak worlds were reporting massive casualties. Ha Newell Park, now promoted to admiral after her service with the engineering corps, watched the reports from Vorthak space with satisfaction. They wanted to exterminate us, she told her staff officers. Instead, they exterminated themselves. The Galactic Council finally took notice when refugees from Vorthak space began appearing at neutral worlds. These aliens told stories of a plague that killed only their species, of human ships that gave no quarter to prisoners, of an enemy that seemed determined to wipe them out completely. Ambassador Kethry filed an emergency report. The human species has become the greatest threat to galactic stability in recorded history. They are not fighting a war. They are conducting an extermination campaign with scientific precision and unlimited ruthlessness. But it was too late for diplomatic intervention. The plague was spreading faster than any ship could travel. Vorthak. Worlds were going silent one by one as their entire populations died. Captain Minho Lim's replacement, Captain Jihoon Park, received the final transmission from the Vorthak homeworld. Emperor Vorthak Prime himself appeared on screen looking desperate and afraid. Human ships, this is the Emperor of the Vorthak Empire. We surrender unconditionally. We beg for mercy. Please stop this plague. We will give you anything you want. Captain Park's response was broadcast to every species in the galaxy. You showed no mercy to our children at Nu. Representative Dalmor of the hegemony of Vel stood before the Galactic Council, with evidence that made the assembled delegates uncomfortable. The Vel were one of the oldest and most advanced species in the galaxy, and their technology could monitor events across thousands of star systems. Honored delegates, Dalmor began, we have been tracking the war between the humans and the Vorthak Empire for 2 years. What began as a simple territorial dispute has become something far more dangerous. The holographic display showed the progression of the conflict. First, the destruction of Nu Sol, then the human counterattacks. Finally, the systematic extinction of Vorthak worlds as the plague spread through their space. The Vorthak Empire, which ruled 200 worlds for a millennium, now controls only their homeworld and 12 colonies. Every other Vorthak settlement has gone silent. Our estimates suggest that over 50 billion Vorthak civilians have died from this biological weapon. Counselor Zethka of the Reptilian Alliance hissed in discomfort. 50 billion deaths? Are we certain these numbers are accurate? Unfortunately, yes, Dalmor replied. The humans have developed a plague that targets only Vorthak genetics. It is spreading faster than any quarantine can contain it. At current rates, the entire Vorthak species will be extinct within 6 months. The chamber fell silent. In the 5,000-year history of the Galactic Council, no species had ever attempted the complete extermination of another intelligent race. Ambassador Thylon of the Crystal Communes spoke next. Surely this is an accident. The humans cannot have intended genocide on this scale. Dalmor activated another display. This one showed intercepted human military communications. These transmissions suggest otherwise. Human military leaders are openly discussing the final solution to the Vorthak problem. They are not trying to stop the plague. They are ensuring it spreads to every Vorthak world. The most disturbing evidence came from human broadcasts that were being transmitted across the galaxy. President Song had made humanity's intentions clear in a speech to the United Earth Council. The Vorthak Empire made a simple mistake, her recorded voice said. They thought that because humans prefer peace, we are incapable of war. They thought that because we try to negotiate, we are weak. They learned too late that the most dangerous predator is the one that chooses not to hunt, until provoked. Counselor Bextar of the insectoid swarms clicked his mandibles nervously. What are the humans' demands? Surely they want territory or resources in exchange for stopping this plague. That's what makes this situation so dangerous, Dalmor replied. The humans have made no demands. They are not trying to conquer Vorthak territory. They are not interested in Vorthak technology or resources. They simply want every Vorthak in the galaxy to die. The Council had faced many crises over the millennia, but never anything like this. Wars between species were common, but they were usually fought for territory, resources, or political control. The humans seem to be fighting for something much simpler and more terrifying: revenge. What do we know about human military capabilities? Asked Prime Minister Keltara of the Democratic Federation. Dalmor's answer sent a chill through the chamber. Our intelligence suggests that humanity has transformed their entire civilization into a war machine. Every human world is producing weapons and warships. Their industrial capacity has increased by 5,000% in 2 years. The display showed images of human shipyards working around the clock. Massive Reaper-class battleships were being constructed at an incredible rate. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. More concerning, Dalmor continued, is the human attitude toward warfare. They do not fight for conquest or profit. They fight for total destruction of their enemies. Human soldiers prefer death to defeat. Human commanders refuse to take prisoners. This makes them extremely dangerous. Counselor Zethka raised a scaled hand. Perhaps we can reason with them. If we explain that genocide violates all civilized norms of warfare. We tried, Dalmor interrupted. Ambassador Kethri of the Zeridians attempted to mediate the conflict 18 months ago. The human admiral's response was that they would hunt every Vorthak across the galaxy until the species was extinct. When asked about genocide, he said that was exactly what they intended. The Council faced a difficult decision. They could ignore the human Vorthak war and hope it remained contained. Or, they could intervene to stop what appeared to be the first attempt at complete species extermination in galactic history. Prime Minister Keltara made the proposal that would change everything. I suggest we send a joint fleet to human space. Not to attack them, but to demonstrate that the galaxy will not tolerate genocide. Perhaps a show of force will convince them to negotiate. The vote was close, but the motion passed. 12 species agreed to contribute ships to a peace enforcement fleet that would travel to human space and demand an end to the biological warfare against the Vorthak. Captain Kyung-Soo An was commanding the new Extinction-class dreadnought, final answer when the alien fleet arrived at the edge of human space. His ship was the largest and most powerful vessel ever built by humans, equipped with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're detecting 200 alien ships of unknown configuration. They're requesting permission to enter human space. Denied, Captain An replied immediately. Send them the standard warning. The message went out on all frequencies. Alien vessels, you are approaching sovereign human territory. State your business or depart immediately. The response came from Admiral Cretan of the Galactic Council Fleet. Human Commander, we represent 12 species of the Galactic Council. We are here to negotiate an end to the biological warfare against the Vorthak Empire. Captain An's laugh was cold and humorless. There's nothing to negotiate. The Vorthak wanted a war of extermination. We're giving them exactly what they asked for. Surely you cannot intend to commit genocide against an entire species, Admiral Cretan replied. That's exactly what we intend, Captain An said. You have one choice. Leave now or be destroyed. Admiral Cretan had expected human stubbornness, but not this level of absolute commitment to genocide. Human Commander, we represent 12 advanced species. Our combined fleet has enough firepower to destroy your entire solar system. Then you better use it, Captain An replied, because we're done negotiating. The standoff lasted 6 hours. During that time, more human ships arrived to reinforce Captain An's position. General Eugene Bay had mobilized the entire home fleet to protect Earth from the alien intervention force. But the most shocking moment came when President Song herself arrived aboard the flagship Humanity's Wrath. She opened a direct communication channel to the Galactic Council Fleet. This is President Song of the United Human Government. I understand you're here to stop us from exterminating the Vorthak Empire. That is correct, Admiral Cretan replied. Genocide violates every principle of civilized warfare. The Vorthak murdered 50,000 of our civilians, President Song said calmly. They targeted hospitals and schools. They executed children while laughing about it. They declared war on humanity with the intent to exterminate us completely. So yes, we are going to exterminate them completely. That's what they chose when they decided to test human resolve. Surely some form of justice short of species extinction? President Song cut him off. There is no justice short of extinction. Not for what they did. Not for what they chose to become. The alien fleet faced an impossible situation. They had come to stop a genocide, but the humans were clearly prepared to fight the entire galaxy if necessary. More human ships were arriving every hour. Intelligence reports suggested that humanity had over 1,000 major warships ready for combat. Engineer Hanyul Park, now serving as Admiral Park aboard the command ship Soul's Revenge, presented the final piece of evidence that convinced the Galactic Council to withdraw. She transmitted technical specifications for humanity's latest weapon, the Galaxy Breaker, a device that could destabilize a star and cause it to go supernova. We have deployed 12 of these devices throughout Vorthak space, she announced to the alien fleet. When we activate them, every star in their territory will explode simultaneously. Every Vorthak world will be incinerated. Every Vorthak in the galaxy will die in the same moment. The silence from the Galactic Council fleet lasted for 10 minutes. Finally, Admiral Cretan sent his response. This is madness. You're talking about destroying entire solar systems. We're talking about finishing what the Vorthak started, Admiral Park replied. They wanted to exterminate humanity. Instead, they exterminated themselves. The final moment came when Emperor Vorthak Prime himself appeared on the communication channels. The once proud ruler of 200 worlds was now a broken creature begging for mercy. Human leaders, I speak for what remains of my people. We surrender unconditionally. We offer you our technology, our worlds, our resources. Please spare the children who had no part in the attack on your colony. President Song's response was broadcast to every species in the galaxy. Emperor, you had the chance to spare children at New Sol. You chose to murder them instead. You had the chance to negotiate with Ambassador Lee. You chose extermination instead. You had the chance to accept surrender terms from Captain Park. You chose to Admiral Wu Jin Han stood on the bridge of Sol's Vengeance, a ship so massive it blocked out the stars behind it. The vessel was the size of a small moon, carrying enough firepower to destroy an entire solar system. Around it, the human fleet stretched across space. Over 1,000 warships prepared for the final assault on the Vorthak homeworld. Admiral, reported Captain Seojin Lee from the communication station, all galaxy breaker devices are in position throughout Vorthak space. We can activate them at your command. Han looked at the tactical display showing the last 12 Vorthak worlds. 3 years ago, the Vorthak Empire had controlled 200 planets and ruled over trillions of beings. Now, fewer than 1 billion Vorthak remained alive, most of them on their homeworld of Vorthak Prime. Are there any human survivors in Vorthak space? Han asked. No, sir, replied Intelligence Officer Kim Tae-sung. The last human prisoners were executed by the Vorthak 6 months ago. There are no human lives at risk in the target zone. Admiral Hanul Park, commanding the orbital bombardment fleet, opened a channel from her flagship. Admiral Han, our forces are in position. We can begin the final bombardment whenever you give the order. Han remembered the footage from New Sol. He remembered Governor Taemin Park trying to negotiate with Admiral Thex Mora. He remembered Vorthak soldiers laughing while they murdered human children. Most of all, he remembered the message the aliens had left behind. This is the fate of those who defy the Vorthak Empire. Begin the bombardment, he ordered. The assault on Vorthak Prime was unlike anything in galactic history. Hundreds of human ships fired simultaneously, their weapons turning the alien homeworld surface into a sea of fire. Cities that had stood for 10,000 years disappeared in seconds. The Vorthak government centers, military bases, and civilian shelters were all destroyed within the first hour. But Admiral Park wasn't finished. As she had promised 3 years ago, she recited the names of every human killed at New Sol while her ship systematically destroyed every structure on the planet's surface. Sarah Kim, age 7, killed while trying to reach her mother. She broadcast over all frequencies. Dr. Min Ho Chang, killed while treating wounded patients in his hospital. Teacher Yu Jin Park, killed while protecting her students. The list went on for hours. 50,000 names, read aloud while the Vorthak homeworld burned below. Captain Dong Hyun Yu led the ground assault forces that landed on Vorthak Prime after the orbital bombardment ended. His mission was to find any surviving Vorthak leadership and ensure there would be no possibility of the species recovering from this defeat. He found Emperor Vorthak Prime hiding in an underground bunker beneath the ruined capital city. The once mighty ruler of 200 worlds was cowering behind makeshift barricades with a handful of guards and civilian officials. Please, the Emperor begged, when Yu's soldiers broke into the bunker. Spare the younglings. They had no part in the attack on your world. They are innocent. Captain Yu thought about Hanul Park's words from 3 years ago. They laughed while they killed my mother. He thought about the hospital footage, about Vorthak soldiers throwing human babies against walls for entertainment. Did you spare our children? Yao asked coldly. The Emperor's silence was his final answer. The execution was broadcast live across the galaxy. Every species with space travel capability watched as the last Vorthak Emperor died by human hands. The message was clear. This was what happened when you declared war on humanity and targeted civilians. But the humans weren't finished yet. Admiral Park activated the galaxy breaker devices simultaneously across all 12 remaining Vorthak star systems. The weapons destabilized the nuclear fusion processes in each star, causing them to expand rapidly into supernovas. Within minutes, 12 suns exploded almost simultaneously. The light from their deaths would be visible across the galaxy for thousands of years. Every Vorthak world was incinerated. Every Vorthak ship was vaporized. Every member of the species that had ruled an empire for a millennium was dead. The Vorthak Empire had ceased to exist. News of the complete extermination reached the Galactic Council within hours. Representative Dalmor of the hegemony of Vel called an emergency session to discuss what the assembled delegates were calling the human problem. The Vorthak species is extinct, he announced to the shocked council chamber. In 3 years, humanity has accomplished what no species in galactic history has ever achieved: the complete elimination of another intelligent race. Councillor Bextar of the insectoid swarms was terrified. They destroyed 12 star systems. They killed over 60 billion beings. How do we negotiate with a species capable of that level of destruction? The answer came when President Junki Ro, who had succeeded President Song after her death in a shuttle accident, addressed the Galactic Council directly. His message was transmitted from Earth to every species in known space. Representatives of the Galactic Council, you sent a fleet to human space 6 months ago to negotiate an end to our war with the Vorthak Empire. You offered to mediate a peaceful solution. You suggested that genocide violated the principles of civilized warfare. President Ro paused, letting his words sink in across the galaxy. You misunderstood the situation completely. We were not interested in your mediation because we were not fighting a war. We were carrying out an execution. The Vorthak Empire chose to murder human civilians for entertainment. They chose to laugh while killing our children. They chose to threaten us with complete extermination. The holographic image of President Ro looked directly at the camera, and his next words changed galactic politics forever. The Galactic Council sent us invitations to join your organization. You offered us territory and trade agreements. You promised us a voice in galactic affairs. You still don't understand what happened here. We are not asking to join your order. We are informing you that there is a new order. Humanity's order. You can be part of it as willing allies, or you can resist it and share the Vorthak's fate. The silence in the council chamber lasted for 10 minutes. Finally, Prime Minister Keltara of the Democratic Federation asked the question that every species was thinking. What are humanity's demands? President Ro's answer was simple and terrifying. Complete surrender of all military forces. Complete access to all star charts and technology. Complete obedience to human authority in all matters of galactic security. And if we refuse, asked Councillor Zethka of the Reptilian Alliance, then you will learn why the Vorthak Empire no longer exists. The Galactic Council faced an impossible choice. They could submit to human authority and become subjects of a species that had just committed genocide, or they could resist and potentially face the same fate as the Vorthak Empire. The vote was unanimous. Every species in the Galactic Council agreed to accept human leadership rather than risk extinction. But the most profound moment came from an unexpected source. Dr. Hyejin Choi, now elderly and serving as Earth's chief science advisor, was the last surviving witness to the original attack on New Sol. She had watched the first Vorthak ships arrive. She had sent the desperate message to Earth. She had lived through 3 years of total war. In her final report to the human government, she wrote words that would become the foundation of humanity's galactic empire. 3 years ago, the Vorthak Empire made a simple mistake. They saw our preference for peace and mistook it for weakness. They saw our attempts at negotiation and assumed we were helpless. They attacked our civilians because they thought we would surrender rather than fight. They learned too late that the most dangerous predator is not the one that always hunts. It is the one that chooses not to hunt, until provoked. They awakened something in humanity that we had tried to keep buried. They forced us to become what we never wanted to be. The galaxy is safer now, not because humans are peaceful, but because every species in known space understands what happens when you make war on our families. We did not want to rule the galaxy, but the Vorthak Empire forced us to choose between ruling and dying. We chose to rule. Dr. Choi's final entry was broadcast across human space and to every alien world. It became the unofficial motto of humanity's Galactic Empire. We did not want to rule the galaxy, but you forced us to choose between ruling and dying. The Vorthak Empire was gone. In its place stood something unprecedented in galactic history, a unified human government that controlled the most advanced military in known space and had proven its willingness to use that power without mercy. Ambassador Kethri of the Zeridians, who had tried to mediate the original conflict, filed her final report on the human-Vorthak war. Her conclusion was simple and chilling. The humans were right about one thing. The Vorthak Empire did declare war on the deadliest species in the galaxy. The Vorthak expected to face farmers and miners who would surrender when threatened. Instead, they awakened predators who would hunt them across the stars until every last one was dead. Humanity's transformation from peaceful colonists to galactic overlords took exactly 3 years. They did not seek this power. They did not want this responsibility. But when forced to choose between extinction and dominance, they chose dominance with a thoroughness that will be remembered for millennia. The galaxy now belonged